Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Aloha and welcome back to another episode of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast. The podcast where two dudes from halfway around the world are very disappointed, disjointed, and disillusioned by what we saw in today's game. Okay, maybe not quite those last two, but disappointed. Also kind of asking, what the fuck happened today? But, Joe, I mean, that first quarter, I was just laughing at the end of it because I was like, it's really just going to be one of those games today. And LaFleur kind of said it in his post game. They just took too long to pull out of the nosedive. But is that a pretty succinct summary of what the game entailed for you today?
Now's when I wish he would have played last week, because you can tell that there was a ton of rust there, and
not just rust, but also like figuring
still
out like what does it feel like to throw on this thing in a game, kind of thing. Yeah,
right. And I was
oh no, go for it.
On the post game, I was trying to remember. On the post game, I was trying to remember. It was Trent Green and
Harlan.
Was it Harlan?
Yep.
Yeah, they were even talking about it where he just did not look comfortable planting that front leg to throw, and the ball was just tailing off, and you could see it. But it also didn't help that his receivers weren't catching anything.
I know.
They would hit him right in the hands. It would hit him right in the chest, and they were dropping it. And I was kind of went off on this in the post game that I did. For somebody who was supposed to be our sure-handed receiver and was supposed to be this, our secret weapon, the reason why we didn't use him in preseason very much, Dontavian Wicks really had a rough game today because most of them were drops by him.
Yeah, it wasn't a great day at the office for Wicks. Like that first 2.5 to 3 quarters of this game, that stuff, he's gonna just beat himself over a lot of those coming back. Obviously, a couple of those, I thought he got robbed on the play that LaFleur challenged because his hand was under the ball. I don't give a shit what happens after that. His hand was under it. The one coming out of halftime, you just need him to hold on to that one. But some of the and so those two I kind of throw out because I'm like I said, the first one, it should have been a catch. The second one, unfortunate, but you want him to make that. The others, the first drive, he drops the third down conversion in the red zone, probably walks in for a touchdown, at least puts the ball inside the 5-yard line. Has the fourth down play later in the game. That's a touchdown. Yeah, I thought he got PI'd. My tweet at the time was Stokes did less than that and got face masked and got a DPI called on him than what was that? Shaq Griffin did to Wicks. But another one, it's right there. You got to catch it. And then he had the one that was the dig on third down, dropped that one. And, someone kind of mentioned it no, Love wasn't perfect. Love wasn't making things easy for his guy. It's kind of what happened on Watson injury is that he, threw I think that's one where, like you brought up, Joe, where the footwork, the inability to, transfer his weight and lean into throws, couldn't put as much velocity on that throw to Watson, so the ball lagged getting there. But for a group of receivers that caught pretty much everything that came their way, and I know there were only like 33 passes the past 2 games, but for a receiving group that caught pretty much everything that was catchable last couple weeks, they let some, I don't want to say easy ones, but they let some pretty standard NFL catches slip through their fingers today. And we saw Dobbs beating himself up after that double tip drill interception. And Wicks just had the day from hell today. But I go back to what we were kind of saying in our post game last week, where most of this shit is correctable. It's frustrating as hell to see a game get blown like it did today, but I do think the Packers are more the team that came back and scored 22 in a row, made it a 2-point game in the end after that crap 28-0 start or 28-point hole, but just can't keep shooting yourself in the foot like that. Like it all the stuff from the first 3 games that we're kind of like, they've got to get through it, they got to do it. It came to a head today, and it put them in a 28-point hole today.
Well, just going by the stats right now, Jaden Reed was targeted 8 times, had 7 receptions. Dontavian Wicks was targeted 13 times, had 5 receptions. Tucker Kraft was targeted 9 times, had 6 receptions. Dobbs was targeted 8 times, had 4 receptions. Melton targeted 3, 1 reception. And, the rest of the ones did pretty good. Jacobs was targeted 6, caught 4. Musgraves targeted 3, caught 3.
Funny how Musgrave, he's 3 for 3. So
yeah,
he wasn't getting thrown to on that second interception. Like, that's what some people were kind of saying, is like the spacing on that play, it did look weird. But yeah, it's funny that ESPN's stat and a couple other ones that I've looked at, they don't credit that throw as targeting him.
And then you got Heath 2 for 2, and then Watson and Wilson 0 for 1. So that just goes to show that, yeah, while Jordan wasn't throwing his best, these guys also didn't help him out any.
Yeah.
And we'll get to it in a little later, but the defense didn't help out any either.
Yeah.
When they finally started driving back, and I mentioned this on the live stream I did, when the offense started fighting back and they ended up making it where it was only like, what was it?
9.
28 to
28 to 22, yeah.
Yeah. All the defense had to do was go out and get a stop, which they had been doing. They had been stopping them. They had been stopping them because the offense had been coming back on it. They needed to get to stop to get the ball back, and they didn't, and allowed, I believe it was another field goal. Yep. So it was a whole lot of things. I have to give Hafley credit. He did do a lot of adjusting. Again, we'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
LaFleur did what he could.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to say because that first drive was looking great. Like that, Minnesota went down, scored their touchdown. The Packers went right down the field too. Like it seemed like they were getting love. They were getting him time. They were doing a lot of the misdirection stuff. Once that first interception goes and you go down 21-0, your game plan kind of goes in the shitter at that point. And like you go down 14-0. Oh, no. You go down 20 because you were down 14-0, then you go down 21-0. And like there were so many points in the first quarter, the first half, where it's like you just got to stop the bleeding. You got to get something on the board as the Packers. Miss kick, interceptions off of like one bad throw in the first half. One was, you could argue was a bad throw or a bad route or whatever. Dobbs will say it's all his fault. I don't know. I didn't see if he got asked about it, but you could just tell on the sideline he was so upset with himself on that one. But like I said, my attitude coming out of the first quarter, even out of the first half, like how the Packers got their touchdown was the microcosm of this game. We'll go into it for Dan Whelan later because he's like one of like 4 people who showed up for the whole game. But it's a punt that Naylor never should have tried to recover to field, that turns into a muff that Melton, thank God he runs a 4-3, so he got down there. And then LaFleur, and credit Gene Steratore for like correcting himself, because he's just going off of like what he sees, like, oh, like he can't go on the field there. And then when they showed the down the sideline angle where LaFleur is clearly calling for timeout, and Steratore's like, oh yeah, you can't flag him for that. Like you totally blew it. Like Steratore, in as nice the words he can like kind of get after his former fellow refs, he's like, oh yeah, you screwed up. You can't compound it by calling him for a foul. And thank God Love and Reed converted anyway after that, because that would have been such a kick in the nuts to like get a flag that LaFleur shouldn't have gotten and stuff. But I'm with you. Well, I was fine with
I'll
the
have
game
to
plan.
say your
Yeah.
ears must have been burning, because I said that in the post game. I was like, this is where Mike was kind of talking about the other week with Moose Johnston and that talking, where they were saying that, oh, well, there was a penalty, and then they wouldn't show the replay, and they wouldn't talk about it any further because they knew it was all screwed up and everything like that. That was one of those calls.
And all you
I
got
said
out,
it.
Yeah, all you got out of Harlan and mostly Trent Green was Green's like, you're LaFleur, you have a right to be upset, but you gotta understand the situation. You're lucky you didn't get burned. You can't cost your team 15 yards and stuff. But but Harlan's like, he has a right to be upset.
Yeah. But even Trent Green shut up when they showed the replay, because he was just going off of that second show where LaFleur was out in the middle of the field yelling at the ref. Then they showed the replay of him trying to run down the ref to call timeout, and that's where Steratore shut up, Green shut up, Harlan shut up, because they knew it was screwed up.
And like I said, I credit Steratore for going a step further and saying like, yeah, you can't screw that up and compound it. Yeah.
So that's where I kind of went off on the live stream. Was it? I understand we see it more as Packer fans, and that's what we see, but it's a league-wide thing where everybody, all these refs are, the games are all about them anymore. And there should have been no reason that side judge should not have known that Matt LaFleur is running at him. I don't care. Matt LaFleur is not a small guy. He's not a big guy. He's not a big guy, but he's definitely not a small guy. And if you see out of your peripheral somebody running at you, yelling and screaming, you're intentionally ignoring it.
Yeah. Like it's and like I saw some people trying to say like, oh, he was yelling at them to like get them to review it and blah blah blah, but I'm like, no, his whole point is he wants timeout so that they will review it, kind of thing. Yep. And so like it just I was like, it's inexcusable. And kind of going on the point you're going
running. He wanted the timeout anyway, because there was, what was it? It was only like 30 seconds and the clock was running.
Like, I think it was under 20 actually at that point or something. So yeah.
No, it would have been under 20 because if they would have not burned the timeout for the runoff.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah. It just what, and like you're kind of saying about how like they're calling certain like the Stokes DPI and stuff like that and all, and then you miss something as blatant as LaFleur trying to call a timeout, or even Wicks has got to catch that ball on in the red zone on the first drive, but clear as crystal, Zach Tom's neck is getting jacked up in the air with a handful of his. It is on the broadcast, and this will be the last thing I say about the. But you have two refs in the backfield to look at shit for that reason, and you both miss it. That's inexcusable, inexplicable for a league that is supposedly doing points of emphasis and all that kind of shit. But I mean, I saw some tweets about it. Like I said, I was laughing at the first half of this game because I was like, this is it. This is that shit hit the fan. Murphy's Law lost in September. Glad they ripped the Band-Aid off and got it out of the way now, kind of thing and stuff.
And I think things would have been a little bit different had Jair not been out, Carrington been out, half those guys, and then Watson getting hurt. And again, hindsight's 2020. I know I said I would have loved to seen him. I had talking prior to the Titans game. I said I figured Jordan was going to play, but I understand them setting him. But it really looks like they should have played him if he was ready, because there was definitely rust and he needed to definitely get used to, because it looked like once he got that first hit, when he first got hit, everything clicked and he was ready to go again.
Yeah.
And he started looking better. But you could tell that there was just a lot of rust there, and
Rust and
it's not,
uncertainty. Yeah.
yeah, and it's not ideal to have to go through that for a whole first half when you're already down by 21 points.
Yeah. And like, I thought the O-line was okay today. Zach Tom had his struggles today. That's the thing with having a not fully healthy quarterback, or one who's like feeling it out and stuff, and Love said it before the game, and you saw it in the week 17 game last week, his ability to buy time by sagging or moving laterally in the pocket last year was a big part of their success against the Vikings, where he was able to buy an extra second because he could roll out or just kind of throw on the move. And you could tell because that he didn't have full confidence in that knee. He wasn't, he wanted to stay on the spot as long as he could and stuff, and he kind of got himself into a little bit of trouble with the rush because of it. And all those things kind of combined to just give you the outcome you get today.
And to be fair, he was only sacked one time.
Yeah. So, and unfortunately, that one sack was a big one because it pushed them out of like go for it range in the red zone. Still had a decent day on the ground, but when you're down by 4 touchdowns, you just can't run the ball that much in the half and all.
We knew it wasn't going to be a very good run game because that was Minnesota's bread and butter. Was they've been one of the best run stopping teams so far this year. So we knew it wasn't going to be tremendous, but combined they still went over 100 yards.
Yeah, or they had 86, but it was on a pretty robust 4.5 yards per carry, so you can live with that. It's unfortunate because the game plan, like I said, it just gets, you just shit can it after you go down 21-0 in the first quarter. So, or at the very beginning of the second quarter. But honestly, this is one of those.
I want to say one more thing about the rules with the refs and that.
Yeah.
Muff punts should be returnable. I don't like this whole, a muff punt can't be, what's the word for it, Mike?
Recovered and returned. Yeah. Advanced.
No, they used advanced. That's it. Yeah. Advanced. That's so friggin' dumb.
Yeah. I've never understood the reasoning for that one. I've heard different things, but it just doesn't make sense where every other instance that there's a live ball, you scoop and score kind of thing. But for whatever reason, there's sanctity on punts. I've never understood the reasoning for that, and I don't know if anyone in the rules committee really knows the genesis of that that rule line, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's a dumb one. But
yeah, because that was an automatic touchdown. There was no doubt about it. The ball ended up on the 3-yard line anyway. You might as well, and it's not like it would have gave the Packers the lead or anything.
Yeah. Like, if the Packers hadn't scored, I guarantee you certain people would have said, "Oh, that's bad on Melton. He should have let it roll a little farther," kind of thing, and stupid shit like that. So, can't win. But you know what? Like I said, good on Melton for being alert. And like I said, we'll get to Whelan later because that was a fucking bomb. But
there was another one that made it down there too. Who was the other one that made it down there with Melton?
It might have been Ballantyne, honestly. I forget who the other gunner is, but yeah, I want to say it might be Ballantyne with him or something.
Because they were both in perfect position for it.
Yeah. No, the Gunners have been pretty solid this season. They've had good coverage on the special teams, but we'll get to that later. But like I said, Love's the first interception, not a great play, but like I said, I can't tell how much of that is the ball is a split second late because he can't really gun that in there like he's used to. The second one, just really unfortunate, whether it's the spacing, like I forget who it was. Someone tweeted that interception happened because Musgrave is fucking massive. Like if Musgrave is 6'4", that play doesn't happen, but because he's 6'6" with long arms, it's like, oh shit, like I gotta go get that thing. And if he's any shorter, it's like, oh, that if it's Tucker, oh, that ball's not for me, kind of thing. Like that, like he just looks at it and is like, oh, like that's not for me, like let it go, kind of thing. But then the third one is the only one that you're like, I know that it was a pass protection bust. You turn around and you see Harrison Smith right there. You either got to just eat that thing or you got to dirt it somewhere else. You cannot Favre arm punt it from the 2003 divisional game. Like that was the worst one. And I did see some people kind of say like Wicks has got to be running harder and stuff, but like, okay, this is gonna sound.
You're talking about the one that was in the end zone.
Yeah. This is gonna sound really weird for some people. Like from Wicks' point of view, he's running a clear out route, so he's quote unquote done his job by occupying some deep zone defender, and so you're not on that route. You don't expect the ball 99 out of 100 times. It's got to be like the most perfect conditions to get the ball. And by the time Wicks understands what's happened, it's just too late. And he honestly got closer to that than I thought he would. And it's just one of those
However, even Trent Green pointed this out. He saw Harrison Smith sneaking up off the edge on that one. So I'm not going to put everything on Wicks. It's a combination of both Wicks and Love and all that.
Yeah, I still put it
Wicks
more...
should have seen
Smith
sneaking up on there and knew that the ball was going to have to come out.
It's a weird one because that gets into hot routes and stuff. And I don't know, because everyone does it a little differently. So I don't know if Green Bay's rule is like, if you see the guy coming off near you, look for the ball, or because he's got a clear out route, or if he's thinking, I just got to clear my guy out and someone is coming under, like that's the route concept, is someone is underneath me. So it's just unfortunate, but I put that at least 75% on Love. You just can't eat the sack there. Like just
see, I kind of agree with Green though about it, because if with the route that Wicks was running, it was just a straight route. There was no cutbacks. It wasn't a cut in. It wasn't a cut out. It was just a straight route. So the other guys, I couldn't tell what the other receivers were running on their routes, but knowing you're the guy that is just having the simple route and you see the safety coming off the edge, I would think you would want to be prepared for it just in case Love can't get to somebody else.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be the number one route because you've got the simple route. Not that wide receivers are, their simple route. You don't have as much gimmicky stuff to it, is what I mean by simple route.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's just unfortunate, but it's one of those plays where you just know it ain't your day at the office. Same with the Tucker Kraft fumble. Like, I can't get mad at him. He tried to tuck that thing down. You're trying to get every yard you can at that point of the game. He puts two hands on it, and Byron Murphy perfectly punches the ball out. Like,
right, but he could have had it down a little bit more. He had it in the perfect spot for somebody to punch it out.
Yeah.
We've seen it so many times with Peanut Tillman and Charles Woodson that if you don't have it down and against your body, that thing's coming out if somebody hits it just
also,
right.
My little bit of refereeing thing is, that's all fine and good if you actually get the ball out, but when you see these guys winding up with a full-on, what is only a physical punch, if you miss, that should be a flag.
Shit.
Like, it's one of those where I'm like, oh, we're just going full Rumble Roses here, and you're just letting guys tee off, kind of thing. And I'm like, more than half the time, they're nowhere near the ball. They're just throwing sucker punches into the pile, kind of thing. And I'm like, that's all fine when you actually create a fumble, but if you miss, that should be some kind of personal foul. Like, you can't just let people start throwing fists into the pile like that, and I do think it's one of the stupidest things you can do, because you're just asking to get that caught in someone's face mask and break your hand. But to each their own. It worked for the Vikings here, and like I said, it was just the nail on top of the nail in the coffin at that point. But bright side, like you said, Love kind of seemed to figure it out as the game went on. LaFleur did really stick this thing together with duct tape and Bondo and got this team to fight. And I was joking about it with a couple people on Twitter that his unsportsmanlike conduct is the equivalent of when a coach in the NBA gets a tech called on them when their team is getting their ass kicked. And it's like, okay, guys, like, I'm fighting, so I need you guys to fight. We're gonna fight, and we're gonna make this competitive. And it kind of did work out that way. So, I can't get on LaFleur because he definitely had things that were out of his control go against him. And the last thing I'll say is, I do think it's a good bit of news that Watson was deemed out with an ankle and not the knee, because I thought his knee turned to dust on that play. And the fact that they ruled him out with an ankle, granted, it's probably a high ankle sprain, but they just put him on IR, let him rest the 4 weeks, get him right. But just thank God he did. Hope, we'll see with the MRI and stuff, but I'm glad that they, said it's his ankle, not his knee kind of thing, because that looked horrible.
And the plus side of it, I know there's the silver lining to it. Whatever he's done for his hamstrings has kept his knee intact.
Yeah.
It may have hurt his ankle, but it's kept his knee intact.
No,
so,
definitely.
I was the same way.
Yeah, definitely. All that soft tissue strengthening, it probably increased his knee stability and stuff. So, yeah. But, like I said, there's going to be a lot of watch this film once, burn it after kind of thing. So, onto the defense. And
not necessarily. I think there's a lot of things that they can work on with it, because it is teachable moments. Like I said, with the Wicks one, okay, Dontavian, you need to be a little bit more mindful of the safety coming off the edge. Okay, guys, you got to realize, bat the ball down. Don't tip it up in the air for the easy pick. Be mindful of your spots, because the one that you were talking about where LaFleur got the penalty, had he been more mindful of being inside the end zone when he caught it, we wouldn't have been in that situation anyway. Not saying it's his fault. It just, you got to be. That's the basics that they always tell you when you start playing games.
Yep.
Be mindful of your surroundings. That's why we always laugh at the old video of Orlovsky running out of the back of the end zone and stuff like that, because you have to be mindful of where you are on the field.
Yep.
So that kind of thing. I don't think this is necessarily a burn it after watching it. I think this can go on and be a teachable moment, and some of it can be on the defensive side, which we're probably getting into right now. Yep. And I for as shitty as the first half was, I can't completely say this was a horrible game.
It was good to see them fight back. They fought back. Everyone fought back. Like, we've seen games like this where they lose 42-6 or something like that. So It was good to see them pull within and stuff. And on the defensive side, like, I saw people, there's a lot of people who are like, the honeymoon period is over. What, is it Joe Hafley or Jeff Hafley or Joe Barry, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, okay, like, you got to understand what he's working with here is he's without his first and second cornerback. The first couple drives, he's seeing everyone else in the cornerback room just getting lit the fuck up in every which way. Stokes probably played the best out of them, and he still got called for that unfortunate DPI, which, like I said, was bullshit, because on replay, Justin Jefferson clearly has his face mask in his hand, and that's why Stokes is like...
Wasn't there one, was it that DPI, or was it one of the other ones that got called, where he got called for DPI because Jefferson pushed off of him?
I think
it's
it was
like,
I think it was all the same play kind of thing, because like so from my point of view, and this is someone who played receiver, Jefferson runs into his chest, and that is Stokes' ground, extended. And they're fighting each other at the collision point. And what you're getting into is what I was saying first, is that like Stokes grabs because Jefferson's pulling his face mask. So Stokes, and if you watch the replay, what makes it really stupid is Stokes is looking for the ball. and that's why Stokes looks so pissed off after the plays. Like he's like, one, the guy's grabbing my face mask, and two, he's like, I'm looking for the ball, and on top of it, Jefferson kind of pushes away and still doesn't, and the ball's not really catchable at that point, but it's just a whole cavalcade of like, okay, like, on so many levels. And, Trent Green saying like, oh, the jersey tug and all blah, blah. But I'm like, okay, like you got to talk about why there's a jersey tug. Like, yeah.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I go, his arms are clearly extended. And I know by rule, if the arms are clearly extended, that's called a push off.
Yeah.
So the only reason why Stokes is getting flagged for PI, or the only reason he's causing a PI is because of the push off. They're clearly fighting, and not fighting, but they're fighting for position. And he clearly pushes off of him, causing the PI. So yeah, that was. But I have to say, Eric Stokes looked really good today. I think there was only a couple of times, not including the PI call, because like I said, and like we were just talking about, I think that was bullshit. But I think there was a couple of times when they went into zone that
and he kind of got beat,
struggled.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's hard to say like, is it really him getting beat, or is it like Minnesota attacked the seams between the zones and stuff like that? And
I think he was looking for the safety, and the safety had switched, because I don't think he was covering Jefferson at that point. So I think he was looking at the safety, and the safety had gone over to double team Jefferson. So I think out of all of them, Stokes played great today. Keyshawn struggled a little bit. I mean, he had that great rush off the edge for the strip sack, but and then I'm 4 for 4 on interception calls for McKinney.
I was saving that one for later for the best part of the day for the defense, but I know, like, and it was funny because, and like, the stuff that Sterator, Green, and Harlan were saying about McKinney's interception, based on the two challenges of the Dobbs and Wicks non-catches against what the McKinney play looked like, they weren't wrong for saying what they said, where they're like, oh, I don't know if that's going to stand up, because you compare that play to those other two plays, you're kind of like, oh, like, what's it? But bar none, that was an incredible play. But that was, you put that in another, that was a great read break on the ball by Xavier, because he created that play. That was not a over underthrow, whatever. Like, as much as I bag on Darnold for not being great, like, he held him and he still made it over to like, Aaron Jones thought he had to do was catch it, get his feet down, and fall over. And you see it where he's jumping up to catch the ball, and then he's like, oh shit, like, there's something coming in front of me, kind of thing and stuff. But that was, bar none, the best play of the day. Otherwise, I know some people were complaining about Halfley for not blitzing earlier in the game and stuff, but first off, the pass rush was very disappointing today. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. This should have been a good 4-man rush game, and they just couldn't get shit done today. And second of all, you have two competing minds where it's like, you just blitz the shit out of it and you live with your banged up secondary blowing it, or do you play the numbers game and think like, if I get guys in coverage? And Halfley played the latter in the first half, but you gotta give him credit for going to blitzes in the second half. Like, he tried it, and that's all you can ask for at this point. Is like, look, he knew the deck that he had dealt to him, and he tried to manipulate it. He tried to turn a pair draw into a straight flush, and he couldn't. And so he's like, all right, I'm folding. I'm gonna renege and stuff in the second half, and it almost worked until it didn't. And I do think in the defensive end, the two big things are, you're missing two of your best 3 cornerbacks, and your pass rush has just underwhelmed in games that you need them to come alive in.
I half agree with you, and that's better than not agreeing with you. I half agree with you. While the pass rush was disappointing, there were some bright spots to it. I thought Lucas had some pretty good rushes out there. he was getting close, and it's not because
And
I'm
of
an
course,
Iowa.
and
Shut up,
like,
guys.
and of course, Lucas's two best rushes turned into Darnold scrambles, which was annoying as shit. Because
Yeah,
yeah,
but here's another game, and I hate to be that guy. Rashawn disappeared.
yep.
Preston got a little bit in there.
But even Preston, it was
Kenny
really sporadic today for
Yeah,
Preston.
Kenny started out strong, and then he just disappeared after that. TJ wasn't horrible. I know they really missed Devontae after he went out.
Yeah,
So yes, I agree that it was disappointing, but I disagree that there were some moments where they were showing up. Now, is that because they just were being horrible, or is that because Minnesota's offensive line is getting better than what they're used to? I don't know. I'm not trying to be
yeah.
smartass with it. I
No,
just,
no, no. I know. Yeah, I'm more just shaking my head because I'm like, I want more data points because this is just the second game where like you're playing a pocket passer kind of thing as opposed to the first 2
Right.
weeks of the season. But also, it's like, okay, like you guys should have been like foaming at the mouth to get after a quarterback, and it's like, and where is it kind of thing. And one of the things that I said is like, okay, everyone knows I'm a Michigan grad. I love Rashawn. I love all the Wolverines who have played for the Packers. I love that Adam Stedovich was a Michigan Wolverine. But like the thing with Rashawn is like, yes, he is the guy out of all those guys on the defensive line that if you're like, if one guy is going to get picked out to get chip blocked or helped or whatever, it's going to be Rashawn. But he's not getting helped on every play. And on the plays that he's not getting double teamed or chipped or whatever, he's got to do more. And he hasn't yet so far. And that's one of the things that I'm most disappointed in so far this season. I don't know what it is. I can't speak to it because, like, the sack that wasn't against Tennessee, when he got off the ball on the play that didn't happen according to PFF in week 1, he looked great. Some of those plays against Tennessee where he helped create sacks for other guys, he looked great. But, yeah, for whatever reason, it's inconsistent and, like, not even like 50-50 inconsistent. It's just really far and few between, and that can't. If this defense is going to be as good as it's supposed to be, that can't be the case moving forward. And they've got to figure that out. Like there's nothing Halfley can really do about that. It's up to whichever 4 guys are on the field. They've got to do better, and that's really all it comes down to on that front. Yeah, go for it.
Do you think it might be better to try him more on the inside than it is on the outside?
I kind of do. I kind of wish they would Justin Tuck him or Za'Darius him more because, you get him against a guard and whether he bull rushes or he speed rushes a guard, I do think that, it's a better use of his skills kind of thing. But at the same time, we saw him have a lot of success on the edge last year. So, like I said, he's just
but last year you can't count because it was a 3-4 team, so he was standing
But
up.
they
most
played
of the
so
time.
much. They played so much sub package. It was almost 4-3 in
right, but he
basics.
still wasn't.
Yeah,
He still really wasn't down in the dirt.
yeah.
He was standing up on most of it.
Yeah.
But the reason I ask is because just going back in my mind to his college film when he came out, he played more on the inside in the 4-3 than he did on the outside. So I wonder
he played on the edge most of the time. What it was is in Michigan's scheme, they played a 4-3, but it was like I forget which one is which. It's like a over and under. So they used Rashawn was the strong side end, and the Sam linebacker was blitzing almost every play. So Rashawn was basically, he was a 4-3 defensive end, but he functioned like a 3-4 defensive end in regards to how like he was there to eat double teams and allow the weak side defensive end, who was Chase Winovich, and our Viper and Sam linebackers to just go in the backfield and create all kinds of havoc. So
wouldn't you technically call that playing on the inside if he's got somebody rushing off the edge right beside
I guess
him?
so. But in the moments where they rushed 4, he wasn't going inside. Like, that's what I mean, is like he wasn't playing a true 3 technique or anything. But like I said, they've got to do something. They've got to figure it out. And fuck, if it gets him and Lucas on the same side and they twist the two of them, like you said, go for it. Like,
Well, that's like I was talking about Tennessee's defensive line last week. That's a lot of beef coming off the edge. They're both over 6'3". They're both over 270 pounds. They both are bull rush artists. I can't think of what their height is off the top of my head, but I know they're closer to 280 than they are 270. And it just it would make see Rashawn is 6'5", 277, and Lucas is pretty much the same, 6'5", 272. So, that's a lot of beef coming off the edge that I don't think even with a tight end help, I don't think even with an extra lineman, they'd be able to stop that bull rush from that side.
yeah.
And that would allow you to put Preston or Enigbare or Brenton Cox or whoever it is on the other side. And, it would create a dominant line. But who am I? I'm just some schlub sitting on a couch watching games every week.
And I'm just another schlub halfway around the world from you. But other than that, like, linebackers were okay.
I thought Quay did pretty good today.
Yeah, and like
that's
I said,
not just because of the sack.
It's just hard to evaluate because they didn't have to get attacked today because, like, the lack of cornerbacks and stuff. But I did think he played decently well against the run and was solid in pass coverage. But like I said, it's hard to tell because he was, as much as like he and McDuffie were getting targeted last week and the week they were trying to target him the week before, they were never going to get targeted in this game once Jair was ruled out and Valentine was ruled out. That just was never going to be the game plan. So I did think they were good though. But yeah, it's one of those where it's like, it's good, but also the rest of the boat's on fire. So, like, how good is good? Is that really good enough or not? But my whole thing with the linebacker is, like, there's a lot of things that Edge is doing where he looks really good. But my thing is like, he's not being asked to do more than one thing yet. He's getting out there for, like, a dozen plus plays a game, and they're like, you're doing this one thing, so you go and fucking do it at 1,000 miles an hour, and it's perfect. It's on it. Like, that's not a bash against Edge. That's not a bash against that's how they should be using him, because it's like, we don't necessarily, and it's not his fault because he's a rookie who missed part of training camp, but it's like, we don't know, or maybe he's flat out told him, I don't fully have the playbook yet. So they're like, fine. You're going to go out there and we're going to shoot your ass out of a cannon and you're going to fuck shit up in front of you. And he's doing a great job at it. But for people that are like, oh my God, he looks so decisive, he looks so explosive, I'm like, if he's doing only what's drawn on the whiteboard, he should look fucking explosive. Like, if, like, I tell it all the time to the like, when I would coach receivers, I was like, if I told you every time that you would run the 5-yard slant and that the DB would always be 2 yards off of you and would never press you, and the quarterback's going to throw it right when you turn around kind of thing, you should complete the ball like 9.5 out of 10 times. But sometimes you're going to get pressed. You might slip. The ball might come out funny, like all these kind of things and stuff. And it's like, they're trying to maximize Edge's athleticism into tangible outcomes by just saying, go fuck shit up, and we'll let the other 10 guys do the thinking around you, kind of thing. And so that's all I'm going to say about that.
Right, and it goes back to what you've talked about all year so far with Quay. Had Cooper been taken in the first round like Quay had, people would be talking about him a lot different. Because they're playing the same. That sack Quay had, he was amazingly fast on that.
Yeah.
That's the same thing Cooper's been doing.
Yep.
So, had they been drafted in the same spot,
or if Quay was drafted into this system, like, as opposed to being like, you're gonna sag 8 yards off the ball and read and react kind of thing, it's like, all right, I'll try do it as best I can kind of thing. So yeah, to each their own. But main thing is, like, hope Jair gets healthy soon. It helps that next week we're playing a team that is as as banged up as our secondary was in this game, the Rams receivers are probably more banged up than we are, which is insane to think about, but that helps going through this game. And again, for this pass rush, surprisingly, I don't think this Rams O-line is as bad as that Tennessee one is, but this will be another one where, like, they've got to create pressure. And, like, we'll go into that in our opponent preview, but the concern level is going up on the pass rush. But, like, I'm not banging the alarm bell because it is just 4 games, and like I said, only 2 of them where you're like, they should be getting pressure, but there is a little bit of an eye twitch and a mustache ruffling going on so far.
Well, I'd like to know when the decision on Jair was made.
Yeah,
because that would tell me a lot more about how the injury is.
Yeah, and like the part we'll never know is, was it a day off on Friday, or did he have a setback after Thursday's practice? That's what we're never gonna know, but we're gonna find out based on his participation, come Wednesday, Thursday of this week. So we just cross our fingers, see what's happening. But like you said, with the offense, there's a lot of film of guys who aren't gonna play much. But the good thing is, like I said, Cooper is doing, like I said, he doesn't have high responsibility, but of the things you're asking him to do, he's kicking ass and chewing bubblegum at the things you're telling him to do. Bullard and Evan Williams both, I thought they were okay. Neither of them really got targeted for anything today, but each of them made a nice play here and there kind of thing. Williams just fucked up number 4 today on that way. Like I tweeted, he got his money's worth on that hit. And Bullard had a couple plays where, like, they sent him on some run blitzes. I think he tracked Jones down from behind on one of those. He had a couple decent plays in coverage. Got
it
says
he's got a TFL.
Yeah, so, and with Bullard especially, that's a guy who, unlike Cooper, is being asked to do a bunch of different things. Some of it's not gone great. See the A.J. Brown touchdown from week 1, but 7 out of 10 things, 8 out of 10 things, Bullard's been pretty solid. And you just want to see him tighten up his game as the season goes on. Maybe Williams gets introduced a little bit more, depending on, how the cornerback situation, Nixon's play, yada, yada, all that kind of stuff goes on. But I do think the progression from the defensive rookies is solid. And like I said, the Cooper and Hopper stuff, it was always going to get roadblocked a little bit because of how much preseason time they missed. That's just how these things work these days. So we'll see how that goes. But like I said, people who are getting on Halfley for what he did or didn't do, he made adjustments at halftime. Yeah, you might not agree with what his initial game plan was. Like, you might have wanted him to blitz more in the first half, but he adjusted. He tried different things in the second half. And, some of the thing, like, yeah, the defense shouldn't be giving up a touchdown every time that the opposing offense comes down the field, but they were put in really disadvantageous positions by those 2 interceptions in the first half. And, hey, they stuffed Minnesota on 4th and 1 late in the game to keep it a 9-point game. Like I said, with the offense, the defense, it wasn't good. It wasn't great today, but you saw them fighting throughout the whole 60 minutes. And there was going to be growing pains this season because of the new system, because of how many rookies you're leaning on. And it's the last game of September. So it's disappointing, but I can live with it as long as they keep trending upwards from this point.
Right. And I just completely blanked on what I was going to say. I don't know. I don't remember what I was going to say, but I do remember I was going to ask, do you know, is Jonathan Bullard and Javon Bullard related?
I don't think so.
I know Jonathan's been in the league a little bit longer.
Yeah,
but I just like noticed it when I was was looking at the stats. I was like, Bullard, wait a minute, what? I think they're around from the same area. Jonathan went to Florida, but he's a bit older.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just, like I said, I think that's why I lost the train of thought when I was going to say. I was like, why am I seeing Bullard on both Minnesota and Green Bay defense? and it was Javon and Jonathan. But yeah, the rookies, I want to go back through and see the snap counts for Evan Williams and Tyron Hopper, because it says Hopper had a tackle, and I don't remember seeing him
I
out
think that
there.
must be a special teams tackle because I don't remember him on defense either today.
I do remember the play you were talking about with Evan Williams, but other than that, I didn't remember seeing him out there
Yeah,
a
he
lot.
was pretty limited out there. So yeah,
I'm surprised that they didn't play Javon more out of the slot.
I think that's a function of they just don't have another safety, and I know where we both feel on this one. Granted, doesn't look great because I don't know if he's played yet for the Giants, but our now former Cyclone was having a good preseason, and if you keep him over a defensive end who hasn't been active the last few weeks,
Well,
you have a
and they
safety
kept
you
him
can.
over friggin', or they got rid of him over friggin' Zane Anderson.
Yeah, another
Nope,
never want
he's
to
been
see that guy on
active.
defense player. Yep.
He's got no stats this year,
Yeah.
so he's been inactive. So that makes me wonder what's going on there with him. But he still would be better than friggin' Zane Anderson on the team.
Yeah. But we won't go
Um,
down that rabbit hole again, at least not here. Maybe after the season, that'll be one of our issues with one of the few black eyes for Goody this season. But like I said, it's like you kind of mentioned with the offense. There shouldn't be any tape burning for Halfley because every little bit of data he can collect is something that he can build this scheme off of. So he can take a little bit, but there is a little bit of like inequity in how useful this film is because it's like I did think there was a lot of stuff he called that should have worked if there were just better players out there doing some of the stuff. So, to each their
veteran
own and all that kind of
players.
stuff. But yeah, so I think what Halfley will probably find is there's going to be a lot of like, that should have worked, that should have worked, that would have worked kind of thing. And I know that you got to coach to your personnel and stuff, but like I said, I thought he was trying to cover for the guys that were in position, were all elevated up a position because of the Jair and Valentine injuries. But that's the luck of the draw that you get in this league sometimes. So sometimes it's your day, and today it definitely wasn't Green Bay's. But on to special teams.
Well,
Oh,
hang on a
Braden
minute.
Narvison. Oh,
Rochelle and Hoden was the ones that were called up from the practice squad, weren't they?
yep.
I didn't see them playing much
I don't
either.
think no. They were both active, but yeah, they didn't get in. If either of them got in, it would have been Rochelle taking gunner snaps because he was one of the gunners down the stretch last season. But
Right, but I know they really liked him for his boundary corner play
yeah.
also.
So
But
and
he has no stats on here, so
yeah.
that
And Haddon
yeah.
was definitely I definitely saw Haddon in pads on the sideline after
Is it
one of the
Haddon?
drives. So because he's the new 36. So yeah.
Fuck him.
But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Like you said, like you kind of mentioned, we'll track how Jair goes through practice this week, but really uncertain on what their status is going to be going into this week. But special teams,
You want to do the good part first or the bad part
they'll
first?
go with the bad part first. So Braden
Okay,
Narvison.
Braden Narvison needs to be gone tomorrow. I went off on this on the live stream I did post game, and for as much shit as Anders Carlson got for the stuff that he went through, we knew for a fact, because it happened all year last year, if he missed one, he wasn't missing another. Narvison missed both field goals attempted today.
And he doinked in the last PAT he kicked too. So, yeah. not a good day at the office today. And like the first, the second one, 49 isn't 49 like it was, 15 years ago. It's still a longer kick and all, but the part that I don't like is all his misses are to the right. Everything is out the right side of the post. And you cannot miss under 40 in this league. Like, unless there's a fucking hurricane happening, you can't miss under 40-yard field goals. That's absolutely inexcusable. So, yeah, I don't know. LaFleur, threw his support behind. He had the whole Goody article or comments about how he maybe needs to be more patient with specialists and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, like, that definitely changed LaFleur's game, his game management after the fact. It definitely affected the outcome of the game because, that's 6 points that you didn't have in a 2-point loss. And yeah, like, nothing really more needs to be said about that. Like, you just can't, like I said, the one that's most inexcusable, you cannot be an NFL kicker and miss under 40-yard field goals. That is just an absolute no-no. And like I said, that's a big one for me. And then the other side of it is all his misses are to the right. And I don't know, like, whether to feel better or worse about that, but the fact is they're all pushed right. And like, like Bisaccia's comments after they cut Anders was like, he had shit he was supposed to work on in the off season and he didn't get it, fixed up enough as we needed him to. I get that it's been like less than a month for Narveson, but it ain't looking good, dude. Like, it really ain't.
Well, it's
looking
obvious
good.
right. It's obvious he's not working on what he needs to work on if he keeps missing the same way every friggin' time.
So yeah. On to the good. Dan Whelan, what a fucking monster.
Well, I want to say this before we get into too much with Whelan. I know I'm on the record for saying this before, that you can't always go by practice and YouTube videos and everything else because that's not game situations. But it was brought up during the live stream by friend of the show, True North Packer fan. Why not do it like hockey and keep 2 kickers on the roster? Here's the fix for that. Dan Whelan, before being signed with the Packers, had YouTube videos of him kicking field goals, and I think his long was 73 yards. Now, granted, that didn't have a rush coming at him. Let's see what the motherfucker can do, because obviously he can punt like none other.
The only reservation I have is he can't hold the ball for himself, which he has been excellent at. But otherwise,
then make Narvis do it.
Or drop kick it, like fucking drop kick it like Flutie did.
There you go.
But
I wonder if you could do that. Could you honestly do that if you lined up for a PAT? Not for a PAT, but a 2-point conversion, and instead of going for doing the 2-point, you just drop kick it?
I don't know.
Or do you have to declare
what the rule is for
kick?
that. That's a good question. I do not know what the rule is for that. What I was going to say is I have no idea how far drop kicking, because like when Flutie did it, he did it on the old PAT where, he's kicking it from like the 5-yard line kind of thing. But fuck, like you said, fuck it. Just see, I jokingly said after the game, like, does Alex Hale get elevated?
4-yarder today.
Yeah. Does Alex Hale get elevated today or next week? Yeah, I know. I doubt it. But
no, because unless he's really done a lot of work, he was no better during training camp. So
at least he's got a big leg. But to the good, Dan Whelan, like I said, that punt he uncorked at the end of the first half. First off, I was just like, oh god, the Packers drive went nowhere, and the Vikings have time and some timeouts, like, and so I was like, oh Dan, please get a good punt so that we flip field position, so Minnesota's just like, fuck it, we'll just run the clock out kind of thing. And then you can, like I said, as you're watching Naylor kind of try to get under that ball, there's a point that all returners will tell you, if you like count to 3 as you're trying to track it and you can't find it, you just run the fuck away from the ball at that point. And Naylor broke that cardinal. He committed that cardinal sin because you saw it. He thought he was under it, and then he started to have to back up, but he was like kind of just like walking backwards. And then he kind of went into oh shit and tried to like jump back and catch it over his head. And it's like I said, I was laughing because I was like, the one thing you couldn't do as the Vikings was do something so Viking-like to just commit the stupidest turnover possible, and you did. But it's all created because Whelan shot a fucking rocket off of his right foot in that instance. And outside of that, he had some other really nice punts in the game. The 2 complaints I have. One, if that's really what our onside kick plan is, like, he should have just kicked it at someone. like that's always been my attitude, is like, especially with all these things where like even before where you had to declare you were gonna onside kick, where like you couldn't overload one side of the field. That was the first rule that kind of killed the onside kicks. You couldn't put 10 guys on one side of the field for the onside kick. Is I was like, why don't they just kick the ball flat right at somebody's chest? And especially one of those guys in the middle, because those guys are never expecting to catch the ball. Those are the guys who are supposed to block or create the muddle to let the guys on the edge, the Donald drivers and stuff, recover it on the outside. And I've always, like, especially as someone who couldn't kick worth a shit, I was always like, if I ever got asked to kick an onside kick, I'm kicking that thing 2 feet off the ground and right in between someone's numbers. I can't guarantee it's going to go there, but that's what I'm going to try to do. And because if I miss, it's going to land in no man's land. And you just got to trust that someone on your team is going to beat the other team running for it, kind of thing. So, like I said, one complaint. And the other complaint is I'm like, there was one punt where it was like 4th and 4, and you saw a Viking get around his feet, and I'm like, just fall down, Dan. Just fall down. I need you to sell this. Like, you don't need to be the tough Irish man all the time. Like, you can be a weenie Brit just for once. You can fall down and be a whiny Brit. But I know I was literally sitting in my living room going, I think it was after the first drive of it was after the Wicks catch got overturned, and I was like, fall down, Dan, fall down, take one for the team. like I said, for Dan Whelan, for your punter, that I'm going to like, oh my god, like that's your onside kick, and come on, sell it for the team. Like, if that's my critique of your game, you know that you had a freaking awesome day punting the ball.
I just have one thing to say. Now everybody knows what it's been like as an Iowa fan for the last 3 years. when you the best player on your team right now is the friggin' punter, that you know what an Iowa fan has been through. But I thought the same thing. He was so close to it. He actually did touch his toes.
Yeah.
That it's like, you might as well just fall over.
Just act like you got shot. God damn it.
But 3 punts, 2 of them in the 20 and a 74 long. You really can't ask for better from him. And on the other side of it, you can't blame him for any of the misses from Narveson, because he's a hell of a holder.
Yep.
Again, this is what Iowa has had to deal with for the last 3 years. So feel my pain.
Other than that, not much. I thought Keyshawn might have had a chance on that last punt return, that one punt return he had, but whoever was the gunner blocker couldn't hold that one block. I thought if that block got held for a split second longer, Nixon was picking the right lane to go up, and he just couldn't get that split second he needed to get out of there and hit the gas on that one. But other than that, I thought our coverage was solid on punts, and yeah, like I said, not much else. So yeah,
it is what scared me on one of the kickoff returns, because the kickoff went over his head and bounced.
Oh,
and he looked like he was going to grab it and go. It's like, Keyshawn, no. Keyshawn, no.
I was more thinking he would, because I thought he was more like it's gonna bounce out. Oh shit, it's not kind of thing. And yeah, so I know I was like, oh, that's right, it's live. It's not college where it's just dead the moment it hits the end zone. So I was like, just get on that and get on down. But
I
yeah,
know, but he looked like he was looking for his lanes when it hit, and it's like, no, Keyshawn, no, Keyshawn, no.
if the Vikings didn't tackle him, Bisaccia was going to. But that's gonna do it for the game review. We go to your segment if you've got anything tonight, Joe.
I think we're gonna change the segment for our preview games because I stayed away from social media all day today.
Makes sense.
I mentioned this during the post game live stream that I wasn't on Twitter because I tend to notice that I pay attention more to Twitter than I do the game, and I want to be able to watch the game to give my full opinions on everything later on. So I think we're going to move the STFU segment to our Thursday episodes.
Fair
That way
enough.
it gives me a chance to go through the social medias and find some good stuff to put people in their place. However, I am going to take the time to mention this right now because this episode is being recorded on Sunday, but is going to be released on Tuesday. So when you hear this, this will be in the future. I didn't win the lottery. I don't have the lottery numbers, so just keep your shorts on with that one. But I do want to bring this up. We will be pushing this more on social medias and everything else. With this being going into Cancer Awareness Month and the Salute to Service times and all that good stuff, we are releasing 2 t-shirts with 2 emblems on them, one for cancer awareness and one for Salute to Service. And what we're going to do is for every t-shirt sold, we are going to donate $5 to charities. We're still workshopping which charities we're gonna donate to. I think the cancer one was settled on Trisha's Troops. Now I thought it meant it was a militia group, but they told me it wasn't a militia group. So I kind of had my reservations after that. You know, but anyway, it's a good cause and it's based in Wisconsin. So for the cancer awareness shirts, every shirt we sell, $5 is going to Trisha's Troops. We will be discussing it a little bit more to figure out which charity we're going to do for the Salute to Service, but it's going to be the same thing for every t-shirt sold of the Salute to Service emblem. We will be giving $5 to a military charity. So please keep an eye out for that. They were just released as of us recording. Like I said, we'll be pushing it more on social medias and that, but please go over, check it out at the website, the merch store. It will be for a good cause. And get your shirts, show your support. Do it.
And on that note, that's going to do it for us tonight. I want to thank you for joining us for this episode. Please check out, just to lead into it, check out the website, ohanapackers.org. Merch, blog posts, streams of the episodes, merch, including the Crucial Catch line that Joe has been working very hard on, but also all of the other stuff that we've got on the shop. Please support the website that way. Like Joe said, our social media account, our Twitter account at Ohana_Packers, we're going to be posting a lot of updates about that line. Also, along with our new stories, new episodes, all that kind of stuff is going to be coming out on the Twitter account. Please follow the podcast on your favorite podcasting apps. Give us a like and a subscribe. And all of your comments, we want to hear all of it because we want to create the content you're looking for. Packers fall to 500. It's a place they were, like I said, kind of just like it was last year. They're going to the West Coast next week, looking to get back above 500. We'll be back for our Thursday pregame show, so keep it here on OPE Network. Go Pack Go, and aloha.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.